Cracking everybody. Uh, New video. Today we're gonna try to react to another Joe Rogan video. This one is Joe Rogan and Mark Laita. I think is how you pronounce his last name. I think he's from Soft White Underbelly. And this one has to do with interviewing murderers and killers. Cops don't care about it. Um, those of you who have been around on my big channel and followed me to the second channel already know. Some of you on this channel already know. But if the video is new to you, the reason why this caught my eye is I was convicted for murder. I was sentenced to 20 years to life, and I did 24 years and 2 weeks on that term. So I haven't heard any of this. I wanted to have a genuine reaction video for you guys, uh, and I'll just if they talk about anything that I can chime in on, I will. Let's go.
You've interviewed people that have been open about murdering people too.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of people that have done that. I'll interview people. I mean, I could do a whole YouTube channel on what happens after the interviews that I do.
Really? Like,
Well, yeah, there's a lot
of people get in trouble.
No, nobody's ever gotten in trouble. The cops have
Really?
never come after anybody.
Really?
I've done all these interviews, and the cops have never approached me about anyone I've interviewed.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
It's crazy to me, but I think I know the cops watch because they'll roll by and say, "Hey, man, who are you posting today?" So they.
Not to say um, it's the case every time, and not to say anything bad about Mark because at one point Mark did reach out to me to interview me. Um, but I don't know if Mark pays people to be on the show. Um, when he reached out to me, he didn't offer me any money. We didn't even have that type of discussion. He just reached out and said if I ever wanted to, the opportunity was there. But if there is any type of payment and people know about it, then that's when people will embellish. Um, I never saw Kelpie's interview, but supposedly Kelpie, the pimp, um, was on this show, and then from that he was able to go on a no jumper, and then all the issues that happened with him and exposing him to be um, embellishing his stories. But I think that when people come on, I would be completely surprised that if someone got on a show, Mark size, soft white underbelly, and got enough views, generated enough attention to their stories, if the details lined up to an actual case, an actual cold case, I can't see the cops saying, "Yeah, fuck it, we don't care about that." I just don't see that to be the case. So maybe he's saying not once has anybody been arrested. Then I don't know, but then maybe the cops just don't care. And for the families of loved ones who were lost to murder, I know that's gotta not sit very well with you.
They watch all the
Yeah.
time. I think the cops enjoy watching because the people that they're arresting are always lying to them. They're never telling the truth. Yeah, oh yeah, I was robbing that liquor store, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I was guilty.
Right.
They're never getting that. But when I interview these people, I say, yeah, I robbed a liquor store, and I got away with it, and I did this, and I robbed a jewelry store, and I shot the guard in the shoulder, and I got away with it. Like they're getting to hear the story told a very, very different way than the way they hear it when they book somebody.
Do you interview cops as well?
I would love to, but I've only interviewed a couple of retired cops. And they're great stories, great
Yeah.
storytellers and great stories. Perhaps my favorite video on my channel is Mike Dowd, who's
Yes, I know Mike. I've had him on the podcast.
Mike's the best.
That documentary.
Fuck.
Yeah, the seven. What is it? The 7-5.
7-5.
Yeah, is an amazing documentary, and it's just
Yeah.
all about this young, idealistic cop who gets.
Tell me that's not a movie that's screaming to be made.
Yeah, I mean, well, the documentary is fantastic, but
Mhm.
yeah, an actual movie about it. He just got indoctrinated
Serpico.
into the world of corruption right from the beginning.
Yeah.
He witnessed a murder.
No, I
He was
mean,
told to shut the fuck up.
When he came to my studio, he approached me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing the interview. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. And we were talking as he was driving up from Orange County to me. He lives, I think, in New York and Florida, but he was in Orange County for something. So he's driving up. We're talking on the phone. And I'm listening to the way he talks. I'm like, Mike, you could, I mean, this is the way I'd love my videos to go. Like, you're a great conversationalist. you're probably the best conversationalist I've ever heard, and that's why you're so successful. One of the reasons you're so successful. But I'm not. I'm just a photographer, and all I'm doing with these interviews is trying to provide a little backstory that my photographs can't provide. So when Mike was driving up, he's talking to me on the phone. And I'm like, he's such a great speaker, and I love listening to him, even when he's just talking about what time he's going to be there. His voice and the way he talks is great. So New York. And I said, Mike, let me run something by you. And this is what I love to do. I wish
Is Mike Dowd? He's taking a long time. Is Mike Dowd the cop and the New York cop that was crooked? He was on Vlad TV and a bunch of other shows. If that's the cop that I'm thinking of, I'm just gonna go ahead out on a limb and assume it is. When Joe said, he came up around a bunch of corruption, I know, I know that Joe wasn't justifying him becoming a corrupt cop because of what was around him, but it's important to point out that there were cops around that cop who didn't become dirty cops. Um, I've always had a problem with. Um, so you see the way I look. Um, when a lot of people see the way I look, they don't know me and they come in my vicinity. They're on guard because they don't know, am I still that guy I used to be, or am I something different because the outward appearance, right? And so they react in a certain way, sometimes subconsciously, right? Whereas a cop, when you see a cop, the average person sees them and their guard is down. When they see me, their guard goes up. When they see a cop, their guard is down, the average person. So if I was to commit a crime against you, there's no surprise there. You kind of expected it, right? Whether you want to admit it or not. But when a cop in his uniform or in his line of work commits felonies and is a crook, in my heart, I believe that is an even worse crime than someone who grew up and got into criminality and you were aware of that. Like when you engage, I don't know if it makes sense to you, but I've always felt like when people in religion or law enforcement break their oath and victimize the community and victimize individuals, I feel like that is like there should be added punishment for that. And I'm not somebody that's into incarceration. I'm into rehabilitation. But I feel like that right there is something different. That's a lot of those people have either, I'm not even going to, they have very deviant minds and have a power issue.
video on my channel was like this. I said, could you do this whole talk where you tell your entire story without me saying a single word? He goes, oh yeah, no problem. I can do that. And I'm like, let's try it. So he came in and he did I didn't make a single noise. I said thank you at the very end, and that was it. And that's the way I love. Those are my best interviews, where I don't say a word.
Well, he's a perfect candidate.
He's
that.
the best. And I've had some even drug addicts to do it, and I've had other people do it. And very often, what happens is I'll ask them. My typical questions are like, "Where are you from? What was your family like?" And sometimes they just take the ball and run with it, and then they do the whole thing on their own, and I don't say another word. So that's almost the same thing. And that's the way I love it. I'm not looking to have a conversation like you and I are having right now.
Right.
I'm not good at that anyway.
Right.
That's not my strength. My strength is the photograph.
The reason why I asked you about cops is I feel about cops the same way I'm feeling about you, but even to more in an extreme, that they're exposed to things that they cannot unsee, and the pressure and the stress of that is so overwhelming. And also, they're thought of as the enemy, and they're not appreciated, and the risks that they take are not taken into consideration, and the stress and the PTSD that they almost all have. Every one of those cops has seen videos of a cop pulling someone over for a routine traffic stop and getting gunned down.
Yep.
They've all seen that, and they know that that's a possibility. Every time they pull up to a car that has tinted windows.
Joe Rogan is my favorite podcaster. But this line of thinking, um, cops should be appreciated. They keep our families safe, bottom line, right? But they chose the occupation. And to say the things that they're exposed to, they expose themselves to, because you have kids that grow up in broken homes with drug addicted parents, uh, maybe extremely violent people in the house where they're beating that child. They're emotionally and mentally torturing that kid. Um, so I don't know where he's going with this line of thinking, but if there's any thought that maybe there should be a little leniency, then where does it stop? You know, these people were adults when they chose to become police officers. These people were adults when they choose to go to the military and go to war and fight for this country. When you are an adult and choose to make these decisions and expose yourself, then you can easily quit that job. But when you have a child that's born into a broken home, a dysfunctional home, a violent home, a drug addicted home, a criminal home, I think that kid doesn't have an option of what they're going to be exposed to. Hopefully, you guys get what I'm saying. So I don't know where he's going with that, but I just wanted to put that out there. Let's not say let's be a little bit more lenient to people like this when kids don't have an option and they grow up to be monsters sometimes. Sometimes, like myself, I was involved in gangs and criminality. I robbed people, shot people, I killed, stabbed, but I'm not that person anymore. So I don't know.
They have no idea what's going on.
No, after doing what I'm doing, which is not as dangerous as what the cops are doing, because they're clearly trying to get somebody and put him in jail or prison.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give him money for an interview. So my danger is not as high.
So he does pay for the interviews, which goes back to what I was saying. I know he did stuff with homeless. How many of these guys that are telling war stories of being gang members, how many of them are homeless? If they're homeless within the homeless community, they're gonna say, hey, you know where you can make some money, man? Go talk to Mark. Soft white underbelly, man. He'll break you off. You'll be able to get a room or get you a drink or whatever it is. That's the dangerous thing about pain. Um, it's just like when a cop tortures somebody to get a confession, they're gonna say anything that you want them to say to stop the pain. When you have somebody with an empty stomach, cold, an addiction, and they hear, oh, I can make a couple bucks if I go over here and make up a story, what you think they're gonna do? Again, I'm not saying that everybody makes up stories on that channel, but just goes back to how in my mind it was like, okay, if the cops ain't picking up no cases based on these kind of interviews, then the details don't match up. There's not a cold case that matches up to that.
Is theirs, but I can relate to how dangerous their life is because every single person they approach is potentially going to shoot them,
Yes.
run,
Yes.
do something, or they're mentally ill and
Every single person.
they're going to just do something crazy.
I follow a few. There's police-related Instagram pages that sort of highlight that are really well done. One of them is Police Posts, and Faces of Rampart is another one. And it's these cops that post these videos, and it's educational. It just shows people. First of all, it's educational to other police officers because a lot of them, they talk about what went wrong here, situational awareness, why this officer got in trouble, what you should do, and how this officer handled this in an incompetent way, or this you should never allow something to escalate to this place. But a lot of it is just you are forced to look at what they experience on an everyday basis, where everyone they're talking to is lying to them. Everyone they're talking to has a potential, and then they also develop this horrible cynicism about human beings and everyone they pull over. They just get so overwhelmed from decades of this job.
Yeah.
That
The cops are so underappreciated.
Yeah.
I think people that become cynics of other people's, that's just their nature. This interview, it seems like there's a wide brush being used, to paint the public as well as the cops. Um, Again, me being a crook, me being a ex-con, uh, convicted murderer, I don't view the cops as my enemy. Um, I don't go into any situation with anyone with preconceived notions anymore. I did that when I was younger, and I understand that in in interacting with another human being, if you go in there with preconceived notions, you're already on the defensive in a way. You're already ready to engage them in a negative way if you really think about that. But if you go in and you just meet somebody, hey, how you doing, and you form your opinion of the person as you're interacting, it's a much better way to live life. But I don't think that every single person a cop communicates with is trying to lie to them or get over or dislikes them. So that's why I say this is a wide brush they're using, but I don't know.
Yes.
Especially right now. It's terrible.
I say it all the time, and people get mad at me all the time. I'm like, listen, man, I know cops. Because of my martial arts background, I grew up with cops. I was around cops from the moment I was a young teenager all throughout my adult life because of martial arts, because so many cops train in martial arts to protect themselves. And they're good people for the most part, like all people. Most people are good people for the most part. But good people that are forced into jobs that have horrific pressures attached to them.
How are they forced into being a cop, though, Joe? Like how? That's the part I don't get. You get into a job, you're gung ho. You're like, I want to protect the community. I want to serve the community. I want to give back. Whatever it is, whatever makes a cop feel like they want to be a cop, good. But if you get into and you start seeing things that are causing stress to your life and to your mental health and all that, you have an option to retire, to quit, to remove yourself from that toxic situation. So I don't understand this word, these certain words. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I just want to make sure we're balanced on this, man. They're not forced to be cops, and they're not forced to stay on the force.
And horrific consequences if anything goes wrong.
And paid very little.
Yes, and they're under just unbelievable stress, and they make terrible errors because of that stress. And then someone gets a cell phone video of that, and they post someone planting a gun or doing this, and then everyone thinks all cops do that.
No, and you cannot shoot the wrong guy.
Right.
You cannot ever risk doing that.
Yes, I watched a horrible video the other day.
So they're shooting at you, but you can't really just shoot back because what if you hit a kid?
Right. Well, that was what I.
I'm really not, and I can't believe I'm basically kind of like, but where's this coming from? If they're shooting at you, you are. I don't know what state. I mean, California, you pull a gun out on a cop, he's gonna blow you away, and he's not gonna get charged for murder. You pulled out a gun. If a cop gets involved in a shootout and a kid down the block gets hit, they are not going to fire the cop unless he blatantly the shootout's this way and he's shooting this way. Then yeah, get your ass out of here, you crook. But I'm kind of blown away by not only the video but the fact that I'm having to defend certain shit.
I saw there was. It was a horrible video of a grandson, this very troubled grandson, who pulled a knife on his grandfather. And while the cops were there, he went to stab the grandfather, and the cops opened fire on the kid and shot the grandfather too. Killed both of them. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. And in the police post, this was all about, understanding about accuracy and when to shoot and when to intervene. And it's sort of a step-by-step breakdown for other officers so they can sort of look at this.
There's a great video on my channel with a retired cop named Kevin Donaldson. It's a great story about PTSD of being a cop and what the aftermath of all that is.
Can't even imagine what their minds must be like when, especially someone who works in a horrible neighborhood where you're constantly dealing with that. And the things that they see, like they're constantly seeing murder, constantly seeing car.
I don't know how many of you guys got the immediate thought that I got or question that I got. Joe said, especially the cops that are working in bad areas. What about the people living there? Those murders that the cop is seeing, the people living there are committing and they're seeing. That's somebody's son. That's somebody's dad. That's somebody's uncle or brother. I'm going to end it on this, but I think that this video, I really liked reacting to this video. I don't know how well it's going to do, but I think this is a way for people to see, like, there's going to be people that are going to bash criminals, and that's fine. I'm not speaking up for criminals, but I am speaking up for a community. When they talk about, imagine the PTSD of an officer that has to work in it. So you're there a couple hours, and every now and then you're gonna have to react to a shooting. But you're reacting to something that already happened. You weren't there. You didn't witness it. But a kid looking out the window did. A kid on the out there in front of the yard, he did. A kid himself committed that probably, or whoever it was. But it's just so different for me when I hear people that come from communities outside of where that stuff is really occurring, to hear their thought process, like for them to vocalize their thought process and their ideas and their conclusions. It's sometimes baffling to a mind like mine, and a mind like those that are still in prison. um, they have obviously so much compassion for officers who work in a neighborhood for a few hours, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, or whatever. And not to say that they don't have compassion of the people that live there 24 hours a day, but um, just imagine the PTSD of those kids growing up that wind up becoming what they witness, right? So, anyways, with that, I'll end this video. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. And by the way, if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up and let me know in the comment section what you like. If you didn't like the video, hit the thumbs down. Let me know what you want me to work on or what problems you had, and share the video with somebody that you think would be interested. That I'm out.